I have been using the M4 MacBook Air for the past month, and it really made me realize something about MacBooks these days. We really don't need any more power. And when you have all the power you need, you start looking at the more important aspects of a laptop to make sure that it gets out of the way for a more enjoyable experience. And that's what this MacBook Air delivers. And one of the things that makes using Mac so enjoyable is Clean My Mac. It has a clean, clutter-free design that makes managing my Mac effortless. With a one click of the trackpad, I can scan my Mac to make sure my Mac is running just like the day I unboxed it. And after 1 month of using this MacBook, Clean My Mac has already found 5 GB of system junk that I can clear. No need for me to spend a bunch of time digging through system settings or looking through files to check for clutter. It saves me a lot of time, and I've even almost found 20 GB of purgeable space on my hard drive, which is great for letting me maximize the MacBook Air's low starting storage. Clean My Mac also scanned my Mac to see if there's any important updates on apps that I use every day, and it found a helpful update for Final Cut Pro, which is so important to my workflow. So it's great that I can keep up to date on the latest features without really having to micromanage it. Every aspect of Clean My Mac just makes managing my Mac so much more enjoyable and hassle-free. To get your own copy of Clean My Mac, check out the link in the description for a 7-day free trial and use my code GregsGadgets to get 20% off. And thank you to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video. Now, I think the MacBook Air is clearly defined by its design, and I think it's been that way for a long time. And as someone who uses a 16-inch MacBook Pro daily, switching to the MacBook Air is, forgive me for saying this, a breath of fresh air. And you really don't appreciate a thinner and lighter design until you have to or really want to use it every day. I say want to use every day because with my MacBook Pro, that always felt like a device that is purely a work mood type of device. Yes, having a bigger display and extra power, more ports, and all the benefits that come with a larger Pro laptop are nice when you are using it hunkered down at your desk editing a video. But that bigger laptop is only something I take with me when I need it. The MacBook Air is just a different philosophy. It's something I really don't hesitate to pack with me. Not only is it just a lot lighter to carry around, but because of the smaller size and the much thinner design, it's also a laptop that fits easier into different types of bags, and not just bags designed for laptops. Like my MacBook Pro, I have a specific laptop bag designed to carry this laptop. However, with the Air, I can use a smaller messenger bag or even throw it in a tote bag without really worrying about needing enough space to pack it. It really fits almost anywhere. It's something simple. It's something you probably have already considered to some extent if you are in the purchasing decision right now, deciding between portability and power, but it is very easy to overlook when a lot of purchasing guides and a lot of reviewers on YouTube really only seem to focus on the raw power of computers rather than the experience of actually using them. That's all to say that size does matter. It's not only about the raw power in these machines. And when you take this laptop out and you put the nice compact design on a coffee table, even the smaller ones, and when it fits perfectly on them and you're just typing away at work, vibing, I mean, that's really an experience that no faster chip in this is going to give you. It's all about design, it's all about aesthetic, and the MacBook Air has that. Now, I already know what you're saying in the comments. You're already typing, Greg, you're going from the biggest and bulkiest 16-inch MacBook Pro to the smallest and lightest laptop that Apple makes. Of course it's going to be lighter, of course it's going to be thinner, but that's not the impressive part to me. What is impressive to me is how it feels to use the MacBook Air in context to that heavier Pro laptop. 5 years ago, you could really feel the power difference in speed moving from a bigger MacBook like the 16-inch MacBook Pro to a smaller and lighter laptop like the MacBook Air. However, the M4 Air, in almost every use case I use my laptop for, feels exactly the same as my more powerful, bigger, and more expensive MacBook Pro. And this isn't some souped up version of the MacBook Air. This is basically the base level model with some extra storage. And that experience that I'm feeling has even less to do with the power of the M4 chip, although I'm sure that does help, but just the basic configuration that Apple is shipping nowadays is a lot better than it used to be. And while it isn't my main editing computer, the M4 MacBook Air is really capable even with this basic configuration. There are situations where I use it and it's like I'm browsing the web, I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm listening to music, I'm playing a podcast, I'm going through Excel spreadsheets, I'm using ChatGPT, I'm going through my calendar. It feels exactly the same as my 16-inch MacBook Pro. Like in terms of speed, in terms of how these apps open, in terms of the responsiveness of the entire operating system, it feels the same. And I've kind of been saying this every year since Apple updated their Macs to the Apple Silicon architecture, and every year they make another power advancement to the M series of chips, and the power gap gets closer and closer to the MacBook Pro. And this year, the M4, I mean, it really does feel almost pro level in its performance. Like, I'm pretty sure if I hooked up this MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro to some external monitor, gave someone like an external mouse and keyboard, and let them use both laptops, I don't think most users would be able to tell which one was the Pro machine and which one was just the basic MacBook Air. I think for most tasks, they would feel pretty similar to each other. And if you are one of the rare users that would notice the difference and know what to look for, well, then I think this laptop isn't for you. But that's all to say that if you are in the market for a MacBook and you're wondering, hey, is this thin and light computer going to be able to handle the tasks I need it to handle? The answer is absolutely yes. And that's really something I want to drive home with this video is I think you should worry less about the performance of this machine, which is kind of crazy to say about a MacBook Air, but I think you should worry about some of the other hardware choices or, quite frankly, downgrades that you get by picking the MacBook Air. Primarily, that would be with the display. It's just a standard LCD display. There's no local dimming zones. There's no HDR support. There's no faster 120 hertz refresh rate. And these are the areas where you'll kind of start to notice that the MacBook Air display isn't as nice as the MacBook Pro, especially when you put them side by side. I think for most basic tasks, honestly, if you're like browsing the web on like a white web page, you're not really gonna notice the visual differences. But if you do load up like an HDR video, if you do put the screen at full brightness outside, those are the areas where you'll start to go, okay, the MacBook Pro display looks a little punchier, looks a little bit nicer. However, these are certainly not deal breakers for me. And for the most part, when I am using the Air, I really don't notice the screen quality differences, again, for most of what I usually use my computer for. And even the lack of 120 hertz is not a deal breaker for me. For the most part, I'm just kind of staring at, still images or text on my laptop. So I feel like it's less important for this to have a faster refresh rate when you aren't constantly touching or scrolling on the screen, looking at like animations and stuff like that. Like that's where you really start to notice a faster refresh rate. I actually think the thing most users will notice is the speaker quality on the Air. It's just not the best. And after a month of using this device, it is still one of the hardest things for me to get over. Like switching between my 16-inch MacBook Pro to this, it is a night and day difference with the speaker quality. The Airs just sound really thin and tinny. They don't offer that full range of sound that you would find on the MacBook Pro, and there's almost like no bass in these speakers. But after my month of use, that's actually the one area where I truly feel like I am making a big compromise going for this laptop. And it's something that when I'm using it portably, or really in most use cases, actually isn't a huge issue for me because only psychopaths use their laptops at any audible volume outside without headphones on. So don't do that at a cafe. I will not be your friend. Like I've spent so much time on this MacBook Air, typing away on emails, appreciating the great keyboard, the excellent trackpad, the sleek design, the great aluminum build quality. I even appreciate this new light blue color. Something small like that does spark a little bit of joy in me every time I pull this laptop out from whatever bag I decided to carry it in today. And there's not really much else to say about this laptop. It's the same MacBook Air I've given positive reviews to in the past. However, it's really the configuration and the price point that Apple gave us this year. So $1,000 with 16 gigabytes of memory with the M4 chip, no ifs, ands, or buts, like you get the lower M3 or the M2. No, Apple dropped all that. You just have the M4 at $1,000 starting price. And that's what makes this laptop so attractive. Now I'm gonna get really unrelatable for a moment because I review a ton of things on this channel. I review every single Mac that comes out. So I have access to like a $7,000 configuration of the MacBook Pro. I have access to the Mac Studio, the Mac Mini. I can use whatever Mac I want to use, except the Mac Pro. I didn't buy that because it's just bad value. But that's all to say that this is the cheapest laptop that Apple makes. Now, the way I want to put this into perspective is I have the iPhone 16e, the cheapest iPhone. I have the cheapest iPad that Apple offers. I have the Apple Watch SE. Those are products that I appreciate the good value for. I can recommend them easily for a lot of users, maybe not the 16e, but yeah, all those other ones I can easily recommend. But they're not products I really go back to and use after the review period because I have better devices out there that are more expensive, that do more than those products. However, the MacBook Air is kind of unique in this situation. This is the cheapest laptop that Apple sells. I could easily just go back and use my bigger 16-inch MacBook Pro. I could go use a 14-inch MacBook Pro, right? But I still come back and use this. Now, this isn't my main laptop for editing on the channel. Again, I have tools that are bigger and powerful and faster than this MacBook Air. But this is a device I come back to use almost like an iPad-like device, right? Like it's like a secondary laptop. It's thinner and lighter. It's easier to travel with. And that is a big benefit. I know it's coming from a very kind of like spoiled position, saying I'm gonna use two laptops, but that's kind of to illustrate how good the MacBook Air is. I don't feel the drawbacks of going for the cheaper laptop, and it has a lot of benefits like portability that I really appreciate when using it. And yeah, if you're in the market for a Mac, you don't have to be like me. You probably don't need something more powerful or something heavier. What you need is just a MacBook Air, and one at $1,000. And after a month of using the MacBook Air, I can confidently say that this is the best laptop that Apple has ever made. And if you're lucky enough to own one, or you're about to purchase one, this is really all you need at this point. It is pretty amazing. All right, I hope you enjoyed my experience using the MacBook Air. You see that little... We almost lost the MacBook Air there. Oh my God, are you okay? That was not planned. All right, so if you liked the video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to purchase your own MacBook Air, make sure you check out the affiliate links in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. Whew, I had a mini heart attack there. I'll catch you on the next one.